We now continue with Smurf.
My buddy Sanya was a third-year medical student back then when this happened. The kind of guy you would not expect to end up in a story like this if you met him under normal circumstances. He was outgoing, joking a lot, and drank like everyone else. He didn't have that stereotypical, creepy, future pathologist vibe that people imagine. Still, that is exactly what he was training to become. And to earn some extra money and experience, he worked nights at a city morgue, officially as an orderly, unofficially also as a guard. He'd mentioned the place a few times in passing, mostly in the same tone you talk about a boring job, and one night, he suggested I come by after hours just to see it and hang out. Around that time, I'd just bought myself a new computer and wanted to celebrate, so I did not think too hard about the invitation. I met him late in the evening, stopped at a store on the way to buy alcohol and snacks, and then headed to the outskirts of the city where the morgue was located. It wasn't attached to a hospital like people imagine from movies. Instead, it was in a shabby two-story building that looked like it had been repurposed in a hurry. The area itself was depressing, garages lined up in rows, exposed heating pipes, cracked asphalt, poor lighting. In the same building, there was a shop for disabled people, some kind of medical lab, and a couple of offices that looked like they were always half empty. Sanya was waiting outside, smoking and clearly in a good mood. He explained that everyone else had already left. It was about 10 at night, and the place was effectively ours until morning. The guy who was supposed to replace him would only show up at around 6 o'clock. We went inside through a small vestibule, then down into the basement, where there was a heavy iron door with a padlock. Sanya locked it behind us, and casually mentioned that the next guy did not have keys and would open it from the outside later. He also mentioned, almost as an afterthought, that there was no cell reception underground, just an old landline that worked when it felt like it. At the time, it did not register as anything important. Once past the door, we went deeper into a tall corridor with no windows, white walls, and fluorescent lights humming overhead, and that unmistakable medical smell of disinfectant and chemicals. The silence was oppressive in a way that's hard to explain unless you have been somewhere like that before. The corridor branched off. One side had a small lab and a toilet. Straight ahead was a utility room, and off to the right was the main hall where the bodies were stored. Before we started drinking, Sanya insisted on showing me the morgue itself. The hall where the bodies were kept did not smell the way I expected. There was no strong stench of rot, and Sanya explained that ventilation and chemicals took care of that, but the sight alone was enough to make my skin crawl. Metal gurneys stood in rows, some with sheets pulled up, others partially uncovered. There were trays with instruments, jars, medical posters on the walls showing skulls, and muscle diagrams. These were people who had been alive recently, now stiff and grey, faces frozen in expressions that no longer meant anything. Some eyes were half open, some heads tilted at odd angles, and more than once it felt like a dead gaze was following me, even though I knew that was impossible. Sanya walked through it all like it was a classroom. He pointed out 2 bodies that had been brought in earlier that day, a young man and a young woman, roughly the same age. According to what he had been told, some kids had found them in the basement of an abandoned building while trespassing. The police report mentioned blood everywhere, ritual symbols, candles, even a slaughtered pig, the kind of scene that sounded ridiculous on paper but messy in reality. Both had overdosed on drugs, and whether they were actual Satanists or just idiots playing dress-up was anyone's guess. Sanya made a crude remark about the girl's body, and I remember snapping at him to knock it off and suggesting that we just go and drink already. Once we moved into the utility room and started drinking, the tension eased faster than I expected. Alcohol did what it always does. We talked, joked, told some stupid stories, and for a while, the morgue stopped feeling like a morgue. Time blurred. At some point though, I heard a sound coming from the corridor. It was faint at first, like wet footsteps slapping against tile. The footsteps were really uneven, and they were slowly moving away. I thought it was my imagination or the alcohol making my mind play tricks on itself, until I noticed that Sanya had gone quiet too. He said it was probably the shift replacement arriving early, even though that didn't really make that much sense. After waiting a bit and hearing nothing else, he decided to check. When I followed him out, We noticed this door to the morgue hall was open. I was sure it had been closed before. A cold draft came from inside. Sanya went in and turned on the light, and for a second my brain refused to process what I was seeing. Standing there was the girl from earlier, naked, her skin an unnatural yellow blue, blotched and bruised in ways that did not look like normal injuries. She was bent over another body, and only after a moment did it become clear what she was doing. She was eating it. She was taking bites, not tearing wildly like a wild animal, but methodically gnawing at the face, chewing, making wet, obscene sounds as she destroyed features that had once belonged to a person. Blood and other dark fluid ran down onto the tiles. It didn't look like a living human moving, and it didn't look like a corpse either. When Sanya shouted at the thing and instinctively stepped forward, the thing turned toward us, and whatever expression crossed its face was not anything I'd seen on a living person before. The fear that hit me then was not panic, it was something deeper. It was like my body recognized something as a threat before my mind could even explain it. Sanya slipped on the slick floor and scrambled backwards, yelling for me to close the door. We slammed the iron door shut and threw the bolt just as it started pounding from the other side. The impacts were heavy, shaking the metal, and the sounds it made were nothing like a human screaming. Sanya immediately started trying to rationalize it, saying it had to be a drug addict in a coma who'd been mistaken for dead, that people on heavy drugs could be insanely strong. He said we needed to call the police right away. The landline gave only static. Our phones had no signal. When we ran back to the exit, we discovered the padlock was locked and the key that he had left in there was gone. I don't know why that idiot didn't just put it back in his pocket. That's when Sanya realized something else, and he told me out loud that the second body from earlier was not in the morgue anymore, that he could see through the window. We both froze for a second. I was just trying to comprehend what he was saying. The second corpse, the young man, he was gone too. He wasn't underneath a sheet anymore. He was not in the corner or lying on a gurney. Sanya started pacing, muttering about how the thing we'd just seen could be wandering somewhere in the basement, probably hiding in the smaller utility room or the toilet. He said the woman or drug addict or whatever it was must have stolen the key, that one of them must have the key. I said that we should just wait until the next guy arrives, or at least call the police, but if he doesn't want to lose his job or get in trouble, we can just wait for the next guy. But he told me that we could not just leave them to wander around the morgue and do whatever they please. I grabbed a nearby fire hook, and Sanya picked up a hatchet from a storage rack. The situation had shifted from tense curiosity to raw panic in seconds. We slowly moved toward the utility room, checking the corners, turning on the light, but it was empty. Relief lasted only for a moment. Then we tried the toilet. The moment Sanya flipped the switch, I could feel it, an immediate shock, like my skin recognized something was horribly wrong. Sitting in the corner, naked, frozen, staring at a single point, was the corpse of the girl that we had seen earlier, but she was no longer a corpse. Her skin was that same sickly yellow blue, wrinkled and bruised, her eyes unblinking, and there was a key in her hands. Sanya stepped closer, telling her to give up the key, and that's when she moved. The way she got up was not normal. She lunged. She made this really weird and horrible face. There was a smell of decay and rot mixing with her breath. Sanya leapt back, swinging the hatchet, but she was fast. I barely had time to hold the fire hook before she tried to reach us. There was screaming, wet sounds, the smell of blood, and chaos. I don't remember much detail of the fight itself, just the panic and fear that every second might be our last. I remember that Sanya stole the hook out of my hand and stabbed the cadaver in the chest with all of his might, and then it fell to the floor. I remember being shouted at to hold down the body, while Sanya just furiously beat it over and over again with an axe. The girl, or whatever the hell she was now, she sure as shit was not human, just until it was all mashed and gooey and made me nauseous. The blood was just gushing like a fountain. Sanya did not stop until he had chopped up everything. He swung the axe and lopped off fingers, hands and legs, and everything was just mincemeat. My memory of all this is blurry, and it feels more like some kind of bad dream. Even though I know it happened, I cannot recall it as a real memory. It almost feels like it happened to someone that was not me. like it was a story someone told me or that I had seen on TV. The second creature that was locked away in the cope storage in the distance was howling and growling and scratching to try and get us. I have no idea how it even managed to get in there or managed to lock itself back in. It sounded feral. Sanya did not stop until the head was disconnected from the body and he had no strength left to cut. And I saw something that made me doubt everything. The dismembered head. It actually opened up its eyes. I am not kidding. They were closed and then shot open like some kind of jump scare in a shitty horror movie. The eyes were black and bloody, and it makes me feel sick to recall them. And it was still making sounds, or at least trying to. This low moan and gurgling coming from the body, and this really wet and horrible squelching sound. Sanya grabbed the key from the blood-soaked tiles, and we made our way to the main door. But there was no time to think clearly. Sanya insisted we finish the other one, the second creature. According to him, if we didn't, nothing else would matter. He said it was okay, that according to the documents, they were corpses already, that I had seen what he had seen, that they were not really alive. I just stayed silent and nodded. I just wanted this nightmare to be over. The hallway had gone completely dark now. The lights kept flickering on and off. We could feel the chill, smell the grave-like earthiness, hear breathing that did not match anything living. Sanya reached in first to find the light switch, and immediately a hand grabbed him, pulling him into the darkness. I ran after him, and what I saw next is something I cannot describe without feeling sick again. The creature was on top of him, trying to tear at his throat. I think it even cut him in the arm at one point and tried to bite him. It was growling and wheezing in a way that I can't even really describe. It just made me sick. It made my stomach turn. I swung the hook that I had taken back out from the girl, barely hitting it, and Sanya got the hatchet again. We fought together, attacking it until it finally went down. Only then did we realize the full horror. This one, the head moved too, the eyes black and wet. They were just staring at us. And it was talking, it was saying something in this raspy, hoarse voice that we couldn't even hear. Just gurgling and making all kinds of sounds, but it looked at us. I swear, it looked at us while it did this. Sanya just kept going until the sound stopped. We spent the next couple of hours in a daze, collecting pieces, trying to clean the tiles, stuffing the remnants into an old iron barrel. We did not speak much, only muttered to ourselves about burning it outside behind the garages and destroying the paperwork. By the time we left the morgue, both of us were soaked in blood, hands trembling, clothes ruined, smelling like the basement had soaked into our skin. I went home in silence that night, trying to convince myself I would forget it, that maybe my mind had broken in some strange drunken haze. I have no idea what Sanya told his boss, if he told them anything. I have no idea why there was no police involvement or anything like that. It still baffles me to this day. For a while, trying to just think of it as some bad dream kind of worked, or at least I pretended it did. Later, when I returned from studying abroad for 6 months, just to get some space and get away from everything, I learned that Sanya had died 3 months after that night. Doctors said it was some kind of blood infection that they couldn't really pin down, that they had never seen before. I never found out exactly what happened in the end, and I never stepped foot in a morgue again. That night stayed with me, and I just wish I had a rational explanation. Someone must know something. The doctors. There is no way his boss did not know, or that the police did not know. Someone has to know something, and they are not saying it. Hey, hope you've enjoyed the story so far. If you want to hear more, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment, because it lets YouTube know you like the content and helps more people to see these videos. My next big goal for the channel is 100,000 subscribers, and as a celebration, I will be doing a Q&A video once we hit that goal. Thank you, and back to the stories. Be me. This was mid-June when this happened. COVID has destroyed my employment and thus destroyed my last reason to remain in my shit show of a town, so I decided to move somewhere less populated for the time being. I remember about this small town in another part of the US that my family used to visit during the winter. It was somewhat populated in the summer, but almost everyone left during the winter season. So I started packing up my bags. I moved to a tiny community about 30 minutes away from said town. Right away, it's instantly more peaceful. There are no annoying neighbors or assholes, the restrictions are much less strict, and there is a surprising amount of girls for a town that is basically in the middle of nowhere. A few months roll by, and the talks of the second wave start up. Liquor control tells bar owner that he either closes at 10 or closes for good. Light bulb over my head moment. I start digging a fire pit in my yard. I get some nice sturdy benches. The next week it starts snowing. All according to my plan. I shovel all the snow in my yard into a circle around the fire pit and benches. I stack that shit 7 feet tall. I test the fire pit on a cold night. The snow reflects the heat perfectly, making the inside of the circle blazing hot while the outside remains in the negatives. It's perfect. I start going back out to the bar around 7 and start chatting up a girl. 10 p.m. It's go time. The bar owner begrudgingly lets us all know it's the final round. I tell Stacy, hey, I got an igloo and we'll drink at my place. She is in. I bring her back to the snow fort and light up a blazer. The temperature goes from cold to hot almost right away. She eventually gets too hot and starts to peel off her layers of clothes. I do the same. You know where this is going, don't ya? Next morning, I can't believe it worked. I repeat the same scheme every night, scoring on most of them. The weekend rolls around and it's supposed to be a huge storm. The local news is saying to stay off the roads and bunker down. I get cocky. I invite over all of the girls from the last few days to come wait out the storm in my fort. I get 3 of them. Stacy, Barbara, and Jenny, let's say. I get to the fort right as the big storm is about to start. The fire gets going and right away, the good times start to happen. The wind is whistling like hell and the clouds completely block the stars. The only light in miles is my porch lights in the fire. Stacy perks up. Hey Anon, I dare you to go and turn off that light, but no putting your coat on. Not wanting to seem beta in front of 3 topless girls, I decide to do so. I step out into the cold and dark and instantly regret this decision. Balls are inside me, the wind shreds against my exposed member, and the snow makes my feet red as ruby. I run as fast as I can to the porch and get to the switch, but I realize there are lights on inside the house. I am not chancing it. I run inside and turn off every light in the house before slamming the porch light off. I make the painful walk back. It's so dark I can barely see the glow of the fire from the entrance to the circle and slip several times, making it back. I could not see 3 feet ahead of me. I make it back and see the girls are all fully undressed now. The mood flips from sour to euphoric right away. Feels good, man. After everything is done, we all relax around the fire. Barbara suddenly sits up. Did y'all hear that? Nobody else heard that. She seems a little bit worried, so I assure her it's just the wind. She is not having it. She gets dressed and asks if we could watch her as she goes to her car. The rest of us shrug and do so. She leaves without much issue, besides the low visibility. I settle back into the seats when Stacy says that she has to pee. Tell her to just piss around the side of the fort because the house is not lit up. While she is out there, me and Jenny stay inside. About 10 minutes have gone by and she still is not back. Barbara's freak out is looming in the back of my head as we decide to go make sure she didn't slip or something. We circle the fort and can't find her. Well, damn, maybe she went inside. There is still no lights on in the house. Start to call her name, but we know it would be impossible to hear with the wind howling as loud as it was. We both get very worried as she is undressed and very drunk in a blizzard. We turn our phone lights on, but the snow is blowing so hard it was like turning on high beams in a snowstorm. Made it even harder to see because snow was reflecting light. I call her name out in panic. Nothing. I decide that given the risks involved, it was best to call police. I check my phone, but there is no service because we are in the middle of a blizzard. I just moved here and have not gotten a landline yet. Damn. I figure if we turn on my car's headlights, we might be able to see her. I run out to the car while Jenny stays in the fort. I turn on the car and drive it onto my yard, looking for her trail with what little visibility it offered. I see a small bit of yellow on the snow closer to my house than the fort. I see a big long trail of smashed down snow leading away from the yellow towards the tree line on the edge of the property. This is bear country. This is grizzly bear country. Oh no. I floor it to the tree line and pull right up to it. I can't see anything. I get out of the car to go and look. I make the biggest mistake of my life. Despite the roaring winds, I was still somehow worried I would not be able to hear her over the car engine. I turn my engine off and leave the lights on. I sprint into the woods, yelling her name. I don't hear anything back. I am really panicking at this point. I run around probably for half an hour in the freezing cold, looking for her, but staying in the light because I was scared for myself. I notice the light is getting dimmer. I finally realize my terrible lapse in judgment. I run to the car to try and start it. I turn the key. It turns for over half a second before the battery fully dies and the lights go out. Damn. I get out of the car and start heading back to the fire. I get to the fire and Jenny is not there. I start to look for her, calling her name. I see her car is still there. I see a red spot in the snow by her car. Oh no, 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 no. I start to take a step towards the driveway when I see it, lurching out just a little from the side of my house, right next to the car. 2 reflective orbs in the snowstorm. It was not a bear. It was about 5 feet tall while leaned over. This massive thing with huge, bulbous-looking shoulders, kind of lopsided. It stares at me as I stare at it. It moves around the corner again. My body is telling me to make a break for the house when I realize something. It's right by the side of my house where the steps to the patio are. The patio is too high for me to quickly climb up. The only cars are far away from the fort. If I run for my car, I will either not make it or freeze inside of it by morning. It has me. I think I waited in that igloo for around 7 hours. The sun seemed like it took forever to come up, and the storm was still raging. I had no phone service and it was about to die, so I decided that this was my last chance. The fire was somewhat safe. It never came bursting through the walls, but I heard it. I heard the steps. I heard it circling me. I heard it testing the integrity of the walls with its claws or whatever it had. I have never been so frightened in my life. I knew that I was about to run out of wood, so the second I knew the fire was going to die, I just made a run for it. I ran to the nearest car. I didn't see anything. I thought I saw something just peeking out at me from the woods, but I don't know. None of it really seems real to me. I managed to get away. I don't know if I got lucky. I don't know if it gave up. I don't know what happened, but I managed to make it into town, and I reported it to the sheriff. There was an investigation. I was questioned, obviously. I was prime suspect number 1. They really thought I just lured these girls in and murdered them. I mentioned what I saw, told them it could have been some kind of animal or a bear, not really wanting to tell them what I really thought, what I really saw, but they didn't really believe me. But they also couldn't pin it on me either. I ended up moving out of that town and back to where I lived before. I would rather COVID restrictions than getting killed by some monster. I've got a story for you. I was probably around 13 or 14 years old when this happened. I live in an area where my backyard opens up into a forest. The whole yard is pretty much concealed to neighbors. The basement door is impossible to see unless you are pretty much right in front of it. I have these constant dreams about someone breaking into my house. I am always home alone in the dreams. They walk off the street and around to the backyard. They open the door, come upstairs, and as I try to run they grab me and do terrible things to me. These dreams go on for a few weeks. I start hearing movement in the backyard. We have a stone gravel backyard, so you can hear animals out there sometimes, walking on the rocks. I figure it's probably just a skunk or something, some kind of small animal. It begins to happen each and every single night. One night, someone steals a ladder from my yard that got left out that I forgot to put away. I start having dreams of these same people climbing up to my open window with the ladder and killing me. I decide to close the window and lock it. The dreams go back to how they were. A few more weeks go by, and my parents are going to a funeral and leaving me home alone. Hell yeah. I stay up all night doing Roblox workline and playing Halo Reach custom games. All of a sudden there are some headlights shining through my living room window. The car pulls into my driveway and turns around and then drives off. My stomach drops. I run downstairs and check the basement door. It is unlocked. I lock the door in a panic. Maybe 10 seconds later, I hear something walking on the gravel outside. Someone touches the door handle and tries to open it up. They keep on trying to open it up. I hear breathing coming through the door. I run up the stairs. I flip all of the exterior lights on. I see 2 people wearing all black running out from behind the house. I call 911. The police tell me to hide. They take about an hour to get there. The police get there. There are no signs of the people. I call my parents, who immediately drive back home. The police stay for around 4 hours until they can get back. The missing ladder was outside my bedroom window, is what they told me. I am pretty sure they were going to mutilate me. I am pretty sure my dream was a premonition. This happened to me in the summer of 2018. I am deep sea fishing with my uncle because he has not got long to live at the time. This dude smoked like a chimney most of the time I'd known him, and they found growths on his lungs. We were about 40 to 50 miles away from the coast. We made a lengthy trip on a small boat that he had had since apparently 1986 or something. We cast out a good distance from the boat. There is nothing. There are no clouds nearby. No real choppy waters. Then we feel this object right below us collide. It shakes the boat hard enough the cooler with the beer in the bait cooler got knocked free and they go overboard. My uncle starts screaming. What the hell was that? What the hell? We see this long, thick shape dart out just from underneath the boat. It's just barely visible underneath the water. It's just a long, shiny, dark shape. It disappears into the sea, and we do not see it again. My uncle decides that we are done, because there is no use in being out here with no beer or bait. He tells me if that we still had either, we would wait to see it come back. It takes about an hour to get back to the docks and load the boat on the truck. My uncle asks me if I saw its head. I say no. He tells me that it's good because he did, and he was scared shitless by it. He says it looked like a dinosaur mixed with the devil. I tell him all I saw was it being a thick, snake-like body. I guess he told one of his fishing buddies about it, and they all only talk about what a great kill its head would make on a fireplace mantle. I look up various marine reptiles and aquatic dinosaurs, but nothing really fit. This happened about 40 to 50 miles northwest off the coast of Maine. I still don't know what I saw. I can't remember if I shared this story before or if I just meant to. I know for certain at least one of you have experienced something similar. This happened when I was around 8 or 9 years old in primary school. I used to love wearing corduroy pants for some reason and always wore them to school. In the class, there was one of those mechanical pencil sharpeners attached to the teacher's desk so she could see who was trying to waste time. If you needed an eraser, you had to ask her for it because people would always steal them. I got the eraser this one time and apparently put it in my pocket without thinking when I was back at my desk. Some little grass on my table told the teacher I was stealing it. I protested that I had not. I even put my hands in my pocket to check, and there was nothing in them. Totally empty, because all stationery and things were supplied by the school. The teacher makes me stand up in front of everyone and turn my pockets out. I turn my pockets out. I feel something in my hand. I must have had that look of guilt on my face because the smug teacher turns her hand out, ready to receive the eraser. This doesn't feel like an eraser, and I really do not want to get it out. She tells me to hand it over. I have the object clenched in my fist. I reluctantly open up my fist. It's a dog's tooth. Not like the cool canine ones, but a molar. The teacher looks at me like I am very, very strange. Everyone in the class thinks I'm an absolute weirdo. I don't even have a dog. I have never owned a dog. There are no dogs where I live. I have no clue where it came from. I never found the eraser or where it went either. I still think about it sometimes because of just how bizarre it was. I think with the eraser, I at least put it on my desk and someone else took it. There's an explanation for that. The desks were weird because they were more like tables for two people, but they would be four together. 2 horizontal back to back, and then 1 vertical at either end, so it was like 8 people sharing 1 big desk. I know people have found teeth in their pockets before, but they were usually human, and they are equally unsure of where they came from. I can't think where it came from or why it would end up in there. Is this the sign of something? Did something happen to me? I just really do not have an answer for this, X.